What would you do if the one person who makes your heart race is also the one person who could destroy your family? She grew up believing he was dangerous, a gang member her father had spent years trying to put behind bars. He grew up believing girls like her were untouchable, unreachable, made from a world that would never be his. But the night they looked into each other's eyes, something shattered. Duty, loyalty, fear. Everything stopped. And neither of them realized that from that moment on, their hearts were tied to a secret that could burn their worlds to the ground. You're not ready for this. Stay with me. Have you ever met someone you were supposed to fear, but instead your heart moved toward them, as if it had a mind of its own? Because that's exactly what happened on the night a girl raised inside the law crossed paths with a man who had only ever lived outside of it. She grew up hearing about dangerous streets, gang territories, arrests, and criminal empires. Her father, the district attorney, spent years hunting down the city's most violent gang members, building a reputation as the man who would stop at nothing for justice. And among all the names he chased, one was whispered more than the others. The young gang leader known for being unpredictable, untouchable, and merciless when crossed. She wasn't supposed to know what he looked like. She wasn't supposed to get anywhere near him. She wasn't supposed to feel anything other than fear. But destiny doesn't follow rules. Sometimes it breaks them on purpose. Because on that night, the night she stepped into the wrong alley at the wrong time, or maybe the right time, she saw him. Really saw him. Not the criminal her father painted in courtroom speeches, not the threat everyone warned her about, but a man with eyes that carried stories no one ever bothered to ouvir. A man who looked at her as if he recognized something in her, something she didn't even know was missing. And for a moment, everything inside her shifted. Her breath, her heartbeat, her certainty. Why am I looking at him like this? What is he seeing in me? Why does it feel like this moment was always meant to happen? You ever felt that? That pull toward someone who should be the last person you want near you, the kind of connection that doesn't ask permission, doesn't care about consequences, doesn't wait for logic to catch up? If you've ever felt something like that, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might hit closer than you expect. That night wasn't just an encounter. It was a collision. Two worlds that should never meet crashed into each other, and neither of them, not her, not him, understood that a single look was about to change everything, forever. The city was louder than usual that night. Sirens in the distance, music leaking from bars, the low hum of danger that only big cities breathe after midnight. She wasn't supposed to be there. Not alone, not dressed like someone who didn't understand what part of town she had stepped into. But she had left a charity event hosted by her father, the district attorney, and walked out simply to breathe, to escape the suffocating expectations, to feel like a normal girl for a few minutes. She took a wrong turn, or maybe the right one. The alley was dim, lined with flickering lights and half-closed metal doors. She walked slowly, heels tapping on concrete when she heard voices. Not normal street voices, low, sharp, coded. She froze behind a dumpster, heart pounding. 3 men stood near a black car, exchanging something she couldn't see. But she didn't need to see. Every instinct screamed what it was. Then one of them turned his head, and everything inside her went still. He wasn't like the others. He wasn't nervous, wasn't rushing, wasn't looking over his shoulder. He stood with a posture that communicated control, not arrogance but certainty. The moonlight revealed the sharp jawline, the tattoos hidden beneath his jacket, and eyes that scanned the alley with a calm intensity that felt unnatural, dangerous, magnetic. She didn't know his name yet, but she had heard the stories. Everyone had. He was the youngest and most feared member of the East Side Kings, the gang her father had spent years trying to bring down. When his gaze suddenly met hers, her breath caught. His expression didn't change. No surprise, no anger, just awareness, like he had felt her presence before he even saw her. She stumbled backward, accidentally knocking over a metal lid. The noise echoed through the alley like a gunshot. The other men reacted. Immediately pulling weapons, stepping forward, she felt her knees tremble. But he lifted a hand, a silent command, and everyone froze. He walked toward her slowly, hands visible, eyes locked on hers. She should have run, screamed, reached for her phone. But something in the way he moved, measured, calm, almost gentle, made her stay frozen. "Are you lost?" he asked, voice low, rough, but not aggressive. She swallowed hard, unable to form words. He glanced at the bracelet on her wrist, the charity event one, and sighed softly, almost amused. "You're definitely in the wrong place." It wasn't a threat, it was concern. The other men exchanged looks. They knew who she was. Anyone connected to law enforcement carried a certain aura. Polished clothes, clean shoes, fear trying to pretend it wasn't fear. He noticed too, and something shifted in his eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. Giving her real name could kill her. Lying could get her in more trouble. So she whispered, "Why do you care?" He tilted his head, studying her like she was a riddle he wasn't expecting. "Because if you walk out of here alone, someone else might not give you a second chance." Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. He took one more step toward her, close enough for her to feel the heat of his body, to smell the faint scent of smoke and leather. Then he did something she never expected. He turned his back to her. "Go," he ordered. "Now." She should have listened. She should have run, but instead, she stayed watching him for a moment longer, memorizing the outline of a man she was supposed to fear, not feel drawn to. And he felt her gaze. Without turning around, he said quietly, "Don't come back here. Next time, I might not be the one who finds you." But fate doesn't listen, and neither did her heart. Because walking away from that alley felt like walking away from something she was meant to return to. She didn't sleep that night. She tried. God knows she tried. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw him. The controlled posture, the quiet authority, the eyes that looked at her like he already knew who she was or who she would become to him. A gang member, a threat, a man her father would put behind bars without hesitation. She had no idea why he hadn't hurt her, why he stopped the others, why he let her go. And the question that burned the most wasn't why. It was who. Who was he really? By sunrise, she was at her laptop, digging through. Public reports, archived news clips, old arrest records. Nothing concrete, nothing recent. The kings were ghosts, dangerous ghosts, and their higher ranks didn't leave digital footprints. But there were whispers online, threads on forums, stories passed around like urban legends. One name kept appearing more than the rest. One name spoken with equal parts fear and admiration. Aiden Cruz. She read it once, then again, and again. The unofficial stories said he joined the kings young, too young, and rose through the ranks fast because he didn't make mistakes, because he didn't lose control, because he didn't give second chances, but he gave one to her. She leaned back in her chair, heart racing. Aiden. It fit the way he carried himself, the way he looked at her, the way he commanded a room without raising his voice. She whispered his name once, to hear how it felt. Aiden. Too soft, too intimate, too dangerous. She shut her laptop quickly, as if the walls could hear. But knowing his name only made things worse, because now he wasn't just the guy in the alley. He was real, human, a man with a history, with scars, with choices that shaped him into someone she shouldn't want to understand. And yet, she did. Across the city, Aiden was having a similar problem, one he didn't know how to solve. He stood in the King's warehouse headquarters, surrounded by crates and armed men, but his mind wasn't on the shipment, or the strategy meeting, or the next turf negotiation. It was on her, The girl with fear in her eyes, but not enough to run. The girl who looked at him like she saw something more than his reputation. The girl who should have been terrified, but wasn't. "You good, boss?" one of the men asked. Aiden didn't answer immediately. He wasn't used to hesitation. Hesitation was weakness. Weakness got people killed. But last night, when he found her in that alley, something inside him paused. Not fear, not doubt, something else. He didn't like not having a name for. He also didn't like the fact that one of his men had mentioned seeing a girl matching her description near the border between territories. Too risky, too exposed, too close to everything the kings were trying to hide. And the worst part, he wanted to see her again, just once, to make sure she was safe, to make sure she hadn't been lying, to see if that look in her eyes was real, or just his imagination. For a man who trusted no one, she had become an unanswered question, and he hated unanswered questions. That night she sat on her bedroom floor, knees pulled to her chest, replaying every second of the encounter in her mind. And then the part that scared her most. She wasn't afraid of him. Not really. She was afraid of what feeling safe near him meant. How can someone like him make me feel this? Her pulse quickened with the confession she wouldn't dare speak aloud. And somewhere else in the city, Aiden whispered his own truth to an empty room. I should have walked away. But he hadn't, because deep down, in a place he didn't admit even to himself, he knew this wasn't over. A collision like theirs doesn't happen once. It repeats, until the world notices. The second time she saw him, it wasn't in a dark alley. It was in the one place he should never have been, her father's fundraiser. The ballroom was dressed in gold and glass, chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, waiters gliding between tables, people in expensive clothes pretending the city outside wasn't. Breaking in slow motion. Judges, lawyers, politicians, donors, people who lived off speeches about justice without ever touching the streets where justice was supposed to exist. She wore a simple black dress, elegant, but not loud. Her father had asked her to be there, to smile, to shake hands with people whose names she was supposed to remember, to play the role of the DA's daughter, perfect, untouchable, safe. She was halfway through a conversation she wasn't really listening to when she felt it, that same awareness, that same shift in the air, like the room got quieter without actually getting quieter. She turned her head, and there he was. No leather jacket, no alley shadows, no gang around him. Aiden Cruz. In a fitted dark suit, hair clean, posture straight, bodyguard nowhere in sight. He shouldn't have belonged in that room, but somehow he did. He carried himself with the same quiet authority, but something about him was sharper now, more controlled. Dangerous, in a different way. Her heart stopped, then slammed back to life. He was talking to someone near the bar, a city councilman, laughing at something. No one around him had any idea who he really was. To them, he was just another businessman in a tailored suit. But she knew, and when his eyes lifted and found hers across the crowd, she knew he recognized her too. For a moment, the ballroom fell away. No music, no speeches, just that line of tension stretching between them, invisible but undeniable. He didn't look surprised. He looked resigned, like part of him had known this was bound to happen. She forced herself to breathe, to look away, to act normal. It didn't work. Minutes later, she escaped to the balcony, needing air, space, anything that wasn't chandeliers and champagne and smiling hypocrisy. The city lights stretched below, a reminder that there was a world outside those polished floors, a world full of people her father called criminals and people Aiden called family. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to steady her heartbeat. You clean up well. She spun around. He was leaning against the balcony railing, hands in his pockets, as if he'd been there the whole time, waiting. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. He shrugged lightly. A lot of people here shouldn't be here. At least I'm honest about which side I'm on. She glanced back at the doors, afraid someone would see them. If my father sees you, He won't, Aiden cut in. He doesn't know my face. Men, like him, don't look at people like me long enough to remember. There was no bitterness in his tone, just fact. That's not true, she said automatically. He tilted his head. No? What does your father call people like me in his speeches? Her lips parted, then closed again. He smirked softly. Exactly. The wind brushed her hair across her face. She tucked it behind her ear, aware of his eyes following the movement. What are you doing here? She asked. Really? He looked back at the city, jaw tight. Sometimes, he said quietly, you have to see the people who make the rules and to understand how they break them in their favor. It wasn't just a line, it was a worldview. And you, he added, you belong here. The question hit a nerve. She should have said yes. Yes, I'm the DA's daughter. Yes, I believe in this world. Yes, these are my people. But the words stuck in her throat. I don't know anymore, she admitted. Something softened in his eyes. Not pity, recognition. You're playing a role, he said. Same as me. She almost laughed. What's your role? She asked. Gang leader at night, businessman in a suit by day. Something like that, he replied, except one of us gets applauded for lying. Their eyes met again. This is dangerous, she whispered. Which part? He asked. Me being here, or you talking to me? She didn't answer, because they both already knew. The door opened behind them, voices, footsteps. She stepped back, heart racing. You need to go, she said. If someone recognizes you, no one in there sees me, he said. Not really. But I do, she shot back. He froze. That he hadn't expected. They stayed there for a second too long. Then her father's voice cut through the noise inside, calling her name. She looked toward the sound. When she turned back to the balcony, Aiden was gone. Just like the alley. Gone when logic said he shouldn't have been there in the first place. But this time, it was different. Because now, he wasn't a stranger in the key. Dark. He was a ghost in her world. And whether she liked it or not, he had followed her into it. She found him again before she even realized she was looking for him. The fundraiser had ended hours earlier, guests drifting out in waves of perfume, cocktails, and polished smiles. Her father stayed behind for press questions, and she quietly slipped away, wanting nothing more than to erase the feeling of Aiden's presence lingering on her skin. But when she walked into the dimly lit parking garage, something felt off. Not dangerous, just charged. She heard footsteps behind her, and slow, unhurried, deliberate. She turned sharply, hand tightening around her phone like a makeshift weapon. Aiden stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. Her heartbeat collided with her ribs. You really shouldn't sneak up on people, she whispered. He lifted his hands slightly, half amused. Relax. If I wanted to scare you, you'd know. Not comforting. Not at all comforting. And yet, her pulse didn't slow. He walked closer, not invading her space, but close enough that she felt the outline of danger around him like a shadow. Not a violent danger, a magnetic one. You left fast, he said. Didn't get to say goodbye. She scoffed softly. People like you don't say goodbye at places like that. He smiled, not the cocky kind, not the dangerous one, something quieter, sadder. That's funny. I was thinking the same about you. The words hit harder than they should have. You don't know anything about my life, she snapped. No, he agreed, but I know enough to see when someone feels trapped in their own world. Her breath hitched. What do you want from me, Aiden? She murmured. Hearing his name on her lips did something to him. She saw it in the flicker of his expression. He took another step forward, slow, grounding, deliberate. I want to understand why you recognize me tonight, he said. Why you looked at me like you knew who I was, when you shouldn't. She swallowed hard. Aiden, I didn't. You did. His voice lowered. You looked right through me. She didn't have an answer, because he was right. Every instinct told her to run, to put distance between them, to remember who he was, who her father was. But instead, she stood there, searching his eyes for something she wasn't ready to name. Finally, she said, "Because you didn't hurt me. That night in the alley, any of your men could have done something. You didn't let them." Aiden's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he would walk away, but instead he stepped even closer, stopping only when there was barely a breath between them. "You think that makes me a good man?" he asked quietly. "Saving one girl doesn't erase the things I've done." Her pulse roared in her ears. "It means there's something in you that isn't gone," she whispered. "Something human." Aiden exhalou, a breath tremoroso. "Como se ninguém tivesse dito isso a ele em anos." "Don't do that," he murmured. "Do what?" "Look at me like I'm something worth saving." Her chest tightened. She'd never heard someone say something so broken in such a steady voice. "You walked into my world tonight," he continued. "You didn't run. You didn't pretend you didn't see me. You didn't lie." "I don't lie," she replied softly. "That's what scares me," he said. She blinked. "Why?" "Because people who don't lie get hurt first." Silence. Then, for the first time, she saw a crack in his armor, a vulnerability he clearly despised showing. "I shouldn't be talking to you," he said, stepping back as if breaking a spell. "This is how people disappear." "Then go," she whispered, though her chest ached at the thought. He stopped, looked at her, really looked at her. "I've walked away twice now," he said quietly. "Don't expect a third time." And then he did something she wasn't prepared for. He brushed past her, slow enough for their arms to graze, a touch that felt like a shock, a promise, or maybe a warning. She stood frozen in the stillness he left behind, because now she knew the truth. He wasn't just dangerous, he was dangerous to her. The moment their worlds truly collided didn't happen in a back alley or in a ballroom, it happened in a courtroom. Her father lived for days like that, high-profile hearings, important motions, cameras waiting outside, reporters hanging on to his every word. This wasn't just another case for him. This was the case, the one that would define his career, the one he said would send a message to every gang in the city. She sat on one of the benches near the back, hands clasped together, trying to ignore the way her father's voice sounded when he spoke about them. Cold, certain, absolute. As if the world was made of two clear sides, the good and the condemned. She had believed that once, before an alley, before a balcony, before a parking garage. Now, everything felt more complicated. She wasn't supposed to be there. This was sensitive, dangerous. But she'd slipped in. Quietly, just another face in the crowd, curious to see the case that carried so much weight. She didn't know at first who the defendant was. She only knew this. Her father was more focused than ever, his arguments more ruthless, his evidence more sharp. "The leader of the East Side Kings," he said, voice steady as he addressed the judge, "has evaded consequences for long enough." Her heart started to pound. No, it couldn't be. The people versus Aiden Cruz. The name hit her like a physical blow. Her ears rang, her vision tunneled. She turned her head slowly toward the defense table, and there he was. In a dark suit, wrists cuffed, jaw tight, posture unbroken. No smirk, no casual lean, just a storm inside a controlled expression. He didn't look at her. He was staring straight ahead. For the first few minutes, she couldn't breathe. Her father's voice filled the room, building a case out of paper, photos, witness statements, surveillance footage. He painted Aiden as a monster, a shadow in human form, ruthless, strategic, heartless. But she had seen his eyes soft. She had heard his voice crack. She had watched him choose not to hurt her. Twice. And as her father listed every crime, every rumor, every statistic, something inside her began to split. Was he lying? No. Was he wrong? Not entirely. Aiden was dangerous. People had gotten hurt. Lives had been destroyed. But for the first time, she saw the space between criminal and human, and it hurt. Hours later, the court went on. Recess. The judge left. Lawyers moved. Reporters rushed outside. Security repositioned. Aiden stood up as the officers prepared to take him back to holding. That's when he finally looked toward the benches. It was only for a second, but it was enough. Their eyes locked. Shock, recognition, anger, pain, all layered together in one glance. She could see it written across his face. You knew who your father was. You knew what he was trying to do. And you never told me. Her chest tightened. You knew. The DA was your father, and you still let me walk toward you. An officer nudged him forward. He looked away. And that simple act, that decision not to look again, hurt more than if he had screamed. She walked out of the courtroom in a daze. The hallway felt longer than usual, the air colder, the noise distant. She stopped near a window, pressing her palm against the glass to steady herself. She hadn't chosen this. She hadn't chosen sides. But reality had chosen for her. She was the district attorney's daughter. He was the man her father wanted to put away for life. There was no version of this story where both of them walked out untouched. Downstairs, as he was escorted through a side corridor, Aiden finally let the calm mask crack. She was there, he said. The officer beside him frowned. Who? The DA's daughter. The words tasted bitter. He laughed once, humorless. Of course, he muttered. Of course she's his daughter. He had felt something shift from the moment he first saw her, the way she looked at him, the way she didn't flinch, the way she seemed torn. Now it made sense. She wasn't just a girl walking through the wrong alley. She was the one person in the city perfectly positioned between his world and the one trying to destroy it. A bridge, or a trap. He didn't know which one hurt more. As the officers pushed him forward, one thought stayed lodged in his mind, like a splinter. Did she know? The whole time. Did she stand there on that balcony, in that parking garage in his world, already knowing her father was building a case to put him in chains? And if she knew, why hadn't she walked away? Back upstairs, staring out the window, she whispered the same question to herself, but inverted. If I knew who he was, why didn't I walk away? That was the moment everything changed, because now it wasn't just about a forbidden attraction or stolen glances in dangerous places. Now it was about choosing between blood and truth, between the father she admired and the man who had never lied to her face, even when everything about him was built on secrets. She didn't plan on seeing him again so soon. She had promised herself distance, logic, caution, anything to stop the chaos that had detonated inside her during the hearing. But some storms don't wait for permission, and Aiden Cruz was one of them. That night, unable to breathe beneath the weight of guilt and confusion, she returned to the parking lot outside the courthouse. The city hummed with a restless energy, the kind that warns you something dangerous is circling close. She hugged her arms around her body, trying to think, trying to understand how everything had spiraled so quickly. She didn't notice the black SUV until it slowed beside her. A door opened, and he stepped out. No cuffs, no officers, no suit from the courtroom. Just Aiden, raw, unguarded, furious. Her breath caught. You shouldn't be out here, he said, voice sharp enough to cut. This place is crawling with reporters, with cops, with my enemies. She took a step back, but he moved forward, not threatening, just hurting. Why were you at the hearing? He demanded. Did you want to see how your father plans to bury me? Her chest tightened. It wasn't like that. Really? He asked, voice dark. Because it sure looked like it. She shook her head, emotion rising. I didn't know my father was building a case against you. I didn't know who you were that night in the alley. Aiden laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You expect me to believe that? The DA's daughter walking into my territory like a lamb among wolves? You were spying. You had to be. No, she snapped, louder than she meant to. "I didn't know, and when I saw you tonight, I realized everything at the same time you did." He stared at her, breathing hard, conflicted, wounded, suspicious. "You knew my name," he whispered finally. "You recognized me the moment I walked into that ballroom." She swallowed, shame twisting in her stomach. "I searched for you," she admitted. "After the alley, after the fundraiser, I needed to know who you were." "Yeah," he said, stepping closer, "so you could hand me to your father." She flinched, the accusation hitting deeper than any bullet. "I never said a word about you," she whispered. "Not your name, not your face, nothing." He watched her carefully, too carefully. "And why's that?" he asked. "Why protect someone you're supposed to fear?" "I don't know," she said, voice trembling. "All I know is you could have hurt me, and you didn't, twice." Aiden's jaw flexed. "That doesn't make me a saint. I never said you were." Silence, heavy, unavoidable. He stepped closer, slow, painfully slow, until she felt the heat of his chest against the cool night air. "You shouldn't be anywhere near me," he murmured. "Your father is hunting my entire world, my people, my family, me. I know. And yet you keep coming back." She closed her eyes for a second. "Because you keep showing up." That hit him harder than any accusation. For the first time, his anger faltered. He looked away, not because he didn't want to see her, but because he didn't want her to see the truth written in his eyes. "You're trouble," he muttered. "You are too," she whispered back. Another silence settled between them, but this one wasn't violent or cold. It was soft, dangerous in a different way. He reached up, hesitating before brushing his thumb over the side of her jaw. The slightest touch, but it felt like a confession. "You should walk away from me," he said. "Then walk away first," she replied. "Show me how." He froze. He couldn't. Neither could she. A car drove by, headlights flashing over them like a warning. Aiden stepped back, fists clenched, mask snapping back into place. "This ends here," he said, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. She nodded, even though her heart cracked. "Right," she said. "Here." But as he turned and walked back to the SUV, she knew the truth neither of them dared to speak. Nothing ended here. This was only the beginning. Her father had always been relentless, but when he sensed a threat, he became something else entirely, a predator. And after the courtroom hearing, he smelled blood in the water. The next morning, she woke to the sound of raised voices downstairs. Her father stood in the kitchen surrounded by files, photographs, maps, a war room disguised as breakfast. "We're missing something," he growled to his lead investigator. "Cruz is good, but no one is that good. Someone tipped him off before the last raid. Someone warned the Kings." Her stomach twisted. She wasn't supposed to hear this. She wasn't supposed to be part of this world. But suddenly the walls that protected her childhood felt like bars. "Find the leak," her father ordered. "Inside the gangton or inside my office." That last sentence hit her like a physical blow. He thought someone close to him was helping Aiden. He thought there was a traitor inside the DA's circle. And she knew exactly how that evidence could lead straight to her. She stepped quietly away from the stairs before anyone noticed her. Her hands trembled as she grabbed her coat and slipped out the back door, needing air, needing space, needing answers. She found Aiden exactly where she shouldn't have gone looking for him, in the outskirts of the industrial district, near the abandoned train yard, a neutral place, a dangerous place. He leaned against a rusted freight car, hood up, arms crossed, watching her approach like he already knew she'd come. "You're playing with fire coming here," he said. "So are you," she shot back. For a moment, neither spoke. She finally broke the tension. "My father thinks there's a leak in his office. He thinks someone warned you before the last raid." Aiden's jaw tightened. "That's because someone did." Her breath caught. "Who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You should go home. Stay out of this. Whatever he's digging for, he'll find. He always does." She shook her head. "I'm trying to protect you." Aiden let out a humorless laugh. You can't protect me from what's coming." "Yes, I can," she insisted. "If you trust me—" He cut her off. "That's the problem." His eyes held hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. "I trust you more than I should," he said, "and that's going to get us both killed." Her breath trembled in her chest. "And I can't trust you," he added, softer this time. "Because the DA's daughter showing up to the DA's case against me, that doesn't look like coincidence, that looks like strategy." "It wasn't strategy," she whispered. "It was confusion, it was fear, it was hoping I wasn't as bad as they say," he finished for her. She dropped her gaze. He stepped even closer, lowering his forehead almost to hers, voice rough and hurting. "Don't look for the good in me," he said. "You're going to find pieces that don't fit, pieces that shouldn't be there." She swallowed, barely breathing. "Aiden, my father will put me on his suspect list if he keeps digging." His expression changed instantly. Shock, then protectiveness, then something darker. "No," he muttered. "That's not happening." "He's already watching me," she whispered. "My phone, my movements, everything." Aiden's breath caught, rage and fear mixing inside him. "Then stay away from me," he said. "If he sees us together again—" "He already suspects someone warned you before," she said. "And if he finds out I knew your name—" Aiden grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. "Listen to me," he said, voice controlled but trembling. "If your father finds anything that points to you, he won't see a daughter. He'll see a breach, a risk. He'll destroy anything that threatens his case, including you." Her eyes burned. She didn't know if it was anger or heartbreak. "So what do we do?" she whispered. Aiden stepped back, fists tight at his sides, pain in every line of his face. "We stop," he said. "Whatever this is between us, it ends here." She stared at him, shaking her head. "No, you don't get to decide that." "I have to," he whispered, "because if I don't, someone else will." He turned away, walked to the shadows, but before disappearing, he said one last thing without looking back. "Don't look for me again, I won't come next time." She stood alone in the cold, her heart cracking in slow motion, because she knew deep down something he didn't. This wasn't ending, it was unraveling. And soon the threads would pull both of them into a storm they weren't ready to face. Her father had always said, "If you want the truth, don't listen to what people say. Watch what they do." She used to admire that. Now, it terrified her. Because by the time she realized he wasn't just watching suspects, he was watching her too. It started with little things. Her phone battery dying faster than normal. Strange delays when she opened certain apps. Moments when she felt eyes on her. Even in empty hallways. She tried dizer a si mesma que era paranoia, efeito colateral de estar dividida entre dois mundos. Mas naquela noite, a verdade deixou de ser sutil. She came home late, heart still bruised from the conversation with Aiden at the train yard. The house was quiet, too quiet. No TV, no clinking dishes, no faint sound of classical music from her father's office like usual. Just silence, and a light under his office door. She hesitated, then knocked once before pushing it. Open. Her father was there, standing in front of a large screen, jaw clenched, eyes dark in a way she had never seen before. There were images frozen on the monitor, security footage, grainy, black and white. Her blood ran cold when she recognized the location. The train yard, her, and Aiden. Her throat closed. Her father didn't turn around at first. He just pressed a button on the remote, and the footage rolled. There she was, walking toward the freight cars. There he was, stepping out of the shadows. They weren't touching, they weren't kissing, but they were too close, too familiar, too something. Her father finally spoke. "Do you know what the worst part is?" he asked, voice calm in a way that scared her more than if he'd shouted. "It's not that you went to meet him, it's that you thought I wouldn't find out." She swallowed, forcing words past the knot in her chest. "You're tracking me." He turned then, eyes like glass. "I'm tracking a leak," he said. "I'm tracking the person, who's been getting in the way of years of work. I just didn't expect to find my own daughter in the frame." The disappointment in his voice hurt more than any accusation. "Dad, it's not what you think," she said quickly. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," he cut in. "You've been meeting with a gang leader behind my back. You've been seen near his territories. You've been disappearing for hours with no explanation. You think I don't recognize a pattern when I see one?" "It's not like that," she repeated, but the words sounded weak even to her. "Then tell me," he said, stepping closer. "Look me in the eyes and explain why the man I'm trying to put away for life is meeting my daughter in abandoned lots after dark." She opened her mouth, closed it. What could she say that Aiden had saved her? Twice. That he had become the only person who felt real in a world built on speeches, that she didn't know where he ended as a criminal and began as a person? Her silence was answer enough. Her father's jaw tightened. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he asked quietly. "If anyone else saw this footage, you wouldn't be sitting in this house. They would drag you into a room, strip you of every protection, and assume the worst." Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Are you going to arrest me?" she whispered. He flinched, just slightly. "You're my daughter," he said. "I'm not going to arrest you, but I will not let you ruin everything I've built for him." There it was. For him. Aiden wasn't just a case to her father. He was an obsession, a symbol. The villain in a story her father needed to win. He turned back to the screen, hands gripping the back of his chair. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'm filing a motion to tighten security around Cruz. No visitors, no outside calls. I'm requesting authorization for more aggressive tactics. If he has anyone on the inside, we'll flush them out." She felt sick. "Dad, don't." "And you," he added, voice like ice, "are done. No more late nights, no more disappearing, no more trips to that side of town. I will not watch you fall into the same darkness I've spent my life fighting." "It's not darkness," she said, the words escaping before she could stop them. "Not all of it." He turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" She shook her head, regret crashing in. "Nothing." He studied her for a long time. Then, as if something inside him clicked into place, he said, "You feel something for him." It wasn't a question, it was a verdict. She didn't answer, she didn't need to. Her father exhaled, the sound heavy, exhausted, broken in a way she'd never heard. "I lost your mother to a world of secrets," he said quietly. "I will not lose you too." The admission stunned her. "This isn't about him," she whispered. "This is about you, about control, about the image you've built." "This is about survival," he snapped. "Yours, mine, the city's, and I will not let one man, or one confused girl, burn it all down." Confused. The word cut deep. He walked toward the door, then stopped with his hand on the frame. "I'm giving you one chance," he said without looking back. "Walk away from him, from all of this, or the next time I see evidence of you anywhere near Cruz." He paused. "I won't be able to protect you." He left. The room felt colder than the footage on the screen. She stood there, eyes fixed on the frozen image, her and Aiden in the train yard. Two figures in grayscale. Two people from opposite sides of a war neither of them had started. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message, unknown number, no name. But she knew. He knows. "Don't come near me. It's not safe anymore." A. Her heart cracked, clean and sharp. Because she finally understood. The danger wasn't just outside. It wasn't just gangs or courts or alleys. The real danger was this. She was in love with the man her father wanted to destroy. And now, both of them were running out of time. The Tao. Next morning didn't feel like morning at all. It felt like a spotlight, harsh, blinding, impossible to escape. She woke to the sound of her phone vibrating non-stop. At first she thought it was friends, notifications, maybe school emails. But when she looked, her stomach dropped. News alerts, headlines, breaking reports, all of them had the same image plastered across their thumbnails. her father walking out of the courthouse with a document raised in victory, and right beside it, Aiden Cruz, in handcuffs. The caption underneath made her blood freeze. Day cracks down on gang leaders. Aiden Cruz to face maximum sentence. It had begun. The war her father promised. The war she feared. She scrolled further, and her world tilted. There were rumors, speculations, anonymous sources. DA's office leaks under investigation. Mysterious woman linked to Cruz? Witness spotted near gang territory. Her fingers went numb. They weren't naming her, not yet. But the shadow of suspicion was crawling closer. The city had started guessing, connecting dots, and she was right in the middle of those dots. Panic clawed at her throat. She needed air. She needed distance. She needed a knock at the door. Her entire body went rigid. She opened it slowly. Her father stood there, expression carved from stone. "We need to talk," he said. She didn't move. "Now," he added. She followed him to the living room, where every TV was tuned to the same news station. Reporters were dissecting the case, like vultures tearing into a carcass. Her father muted the screen. "I'm calling a press conference," he said without turning. "Tonight." "About what?" she asked, voice barely steady. "About Cruz. About the leaks. About the threats. The city needs reassurance. They need a villain. And they need to know I'm fighting for them." "And what about me?" she whispered. He paused, then turned, and the look on his face shattered her. "You don't talk to anyone today," he said. "Not the press, not strangers, not friends, not—" He hesitated just long enough for her heart to drop. "Not him." Her breath caught. He didn't say Aiden's name. He didn't have to. "He texted me," she said quietly. Her father's eyes darkened. "You didn't respond." "I didn't," she said. "I swear." He studied her face for a long, painful moment, searching for lies. Finally, he nodded once. "For your safety," he said. "I'm assigning you private security." She stepped back as if struck. "I don't want security." "It's not optional. It feels like punishment. It's protection. It feels like a cage. It's how I keep you alive." The finality in his tone made her chest ache. She wasn't being protected. She was being contained. Before she could respond, he turned away and grabbed his coat. "I'll be home late," he said. "Stay inside." The door closed behind him. She sank into the couch, shaking. The city's eyes were hunting Aiden. Her father was hunting the traitor, and both hunts were leading to her. Across the city, in a holding cell deep beneath the courthouse, Aiden sat on a metal bench, wrists cuffed, jaw clenched, listening to the guards whisper outside. DA's going after him hard. He wants a public example. They're building the maximum sentence possible. None of it surprised him. What did surprise him was the low conversation between two officers near the elevator. "Got surveillance footage of Cruz with some girl. DA's daughter, they're saying." "No way." Explains why the old man is furious. Aiden stopped breathing. He felt heat rise up his chest, anger, fear, something deeper. She was being dragged into this because of him. He stood, fists clenching around the cuffs so hard his knuckles went white. The guards noticed only when he spoke. Calm, quiet, deadly. "If anyone touches her, this city won't have enough stone to build the graves." The guards exchanged a look, half fear, half respect. Because they knew Aiden Cruz wasn't afraid of prison. He wasn't afraid of the day. He wasn't afraid of a sentence, but he was afraid of what his world might do to her. Back home, she stood in front of her bedroom mirror, gripping the sink as she stared at her reflection. She didn't look like the DA's daughter. She didn't look like a criminal's lover. She looked like someone drowning between two worlds, unable to climb out of either one. Her phone buzzed. Another message. Same number. "They're coming after both of us. Don't believe anything you hear. I'll find a way out. But you need to stay alive." As she closed her eyes, tears finally falling, Because this wasn't just love, this was war. And she was standing in the exact center of the battlefield. She always thought the big moments in life came with warning signs. A trembling sky, a loud announcement, a feeling in your chest that screamed, "This is it." But the day everything changed started like any other. Gray, quiet, ordinary. She watched the press conference on TV from the back of the courtroom, hidden in the crowd. Her father stood at the podium surrounded by flags and microphones, every word measured, every sentence crafted to sound like justice. "Today," he said, "we send a clear message. Crime will never outrun the law. Aiden Cruz will face the maximum sentence our system allows. No deals, no compromises, no second chances." The crowd applauded. Reporters shouted questions. Her heart broke a little more with each word, because she knew something the cameras didn't. It wasn't just the law attacking Aiden, it was her father, and Aiden wasn't the only one running out of chances. The trial resumed that afternoon. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, gang members at the back, politicians in suits at the front, regular citizens somewhere in between. Everyone had already chosen a side. She walked in late, head down, hoping no one would notice her. They did. Whispers followed her as she sat. "The DA's daughter. Is it true? They say she met with him." She pretended not to hear. At the defense table, Aiden sat handcuffed, eyes forward. He didn't look at her, not once. As if looking might break something in him he needed intact to survive. Her father presented his final argument, powerful, sharp, woven from evidence and emotion. He spoke of victims, families, blood on sidewalks, futures stolen. He painted Aiden as the center of it all. "And when we let men like this walk away," he said, voice rising, "we don't just fail the law. We fail every innocent life their choices." Touched, the jury watched him like gravity itself. Then it was the defense's turn. Aiden's lawyer stood, calm but visibly outmatched by the DA's charisma and power. It was almost unfair. "Your Honor," the defense said, "we call one final witness." She didn't realize what was happening until she heard her name. Hers. The room shifted, heads turned. Her father's expression snapped from confidence to alarm. "No," he said under his breath, barely audible. "No, absolutely not." But the judge was already looking at her. "Miss," he said, "you've been called to the stand." Her legs felt like they were made of glass. She walked forward anyway. Every step felt like betrayal. To someone. To everyone. She sat, swore to tell the truth. Her father stared at her like the room had tilted off its axis. The defense attorney didn't waste time. "You are the district attorney's daughter," he began. "Yes," she said, voice soft but steady. "You've had a front row seat to this case, to Mr. Cruz, to your father's actions, is that correct?" "Yes." "Miss," he paused, "do you believe everything about this case has been fair?" The judge shifted. Her father stiffened. "Objection," the DA snapped. "This is opinion, not fact." The judge hesitated. "I'll allow it, but get to the point, counselor." The entire courtroom watched her. She could lie. She could protect herself. She could protect her father. Or she could finally admit the truth that had been suffocating her since the night in the alley. "No," she said quietly. "I don't think it's been fair." A ripple went through the room. Her father's eyes flashed with something between anger and panic. "Explain," the defense said gently. She exhaled. "Mr. Cruz is not innocent," she said. "I'm not here to pretend he is. There are things he's done that hurt people, things my father has every right to prosecute." She looked straight at Aiden for the first time that day. "But that's not the whole story." Aiden's jaw clenched. She continued. "My father has been tracking me, watching me, monitoring my phone, using surveillance not just on suspects, but on his own daughter. He accessed footage without a warrant. He used it to influence this case. He made decisions about Mr. Cruz based not only on evidence, but on me. Her father shot to his feet. "Objection, this is absurd." "Sit down, counselor," the judge snapped. "You'll have your turn." She swallowed hard, tears threatening. "I met Aiden Cruz by accident," she said. "He could have let his people hurt me. He didn't. He stepped between me and danger. Again and again, he didn't use me to sabotage the case. I'm the one who kept going back." Her voice cracked. "I'm the one who couldn't walk away." Silence. No one moved. "This case stopped being just about crime a long time ago," she whispered. "It became personal, on both sides. My father wants to win, Aiden wants to survive, and somewhere in between, I got lost." She turned to the judge. "I'm not asking you to free him," she said. "I'm asking you to see him as a human being, not a symbol, not a headline, not a warning to the city." Her eyes found Aiden's again, hot with emotion. "He saved me when he didn't have to," she finished. "I couldn't stay quiet and pretend that didn't matter. Not anymore." She stepped down from the stand on shaking legs. Her father wouldn't look at her. Aiden did. For the first time that day, their eyes met, and in his, she saw something she'd never seen before. Not anger, not accusation. Respect, and something heartbreakingly close to gratitude. The judge called for a recess. Chaos exploded, reporters rushing out, lawyers arguing, her father storming toward her, eyes full of broken fury. "What have you done?" he hissed. She held his gaze, tears finally falling. "What you taught me," she said. "I told the truth." He stared at her like he didn't recognize her anymore. Maybe he didn't. Maybe she didn't either. Outside, hours later, the city buzzed with speculation. No verdict yet. No clear ending. Just noise. She stepped out of the courthouse alone. No father at her side. No Aiden walking free. Just her, caught between the man who raised her and the man who changed her. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. "You didn't have to do that. You just made yourself a target, but thank you." She closed her eyes, letting the message sink in. She didn't know what the judge would decide. She didn't know what her relationship with her father would become. She didn't know if she and Aiden would ever share anything beyond stolen moments and broken pieces. But she knew one thing. For the first time in her life, she hadn't chosen a side. She had chosen the truth. And whatever that cost her, her heart had already paid. If this story stayed with you, let me know in the comments. Your support keeps these forbidden stories alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And come back tomorrow for another story you won't forget.